With the success of the USS Monitor at the Battle of Hampton Roads in March of 1862, the United States Naval Department began ordering the Monitor-type ironclad left and right, and between March of 1862 and April of 1865, they ordered no less than 60 Monitor-type vessels. Out of these 60, there were two distinct vessels that would be laid down, and this was because the Monitors, in their own respect, were not seaworthy, and thus the United States Navy wanted to start creating seaworthy Monitor-type vessels just in case France or Britain wanted to join the Civil War. These two designs would become Dictator and Puritan. For this video, I'm largely going to ignore Dictator because it was actually completed, whilst Puritan was not. The story of Puritan begins in the late spring and early summer of 1862, when the United States Naval Department was calling on designs for a true ocean-going craft, since the Navy had a severe lack of vessels capable of entering the Atlantic safely. The Swedish-American inventor John Ericsson, whom was the original designer of the USS Monitor, submitted a plan for a gigantic Monitor-type vessel that was largely reminiscent of the Monitor, but capable of entering the Atlantic Ocean safely. The United States Naval Department was happy with the design and accepted it. They also ended up creating a second design based off Ericsson's ship, and this would be a twin-turreted version with twin screws, while Ericsson's was the traditional single turret and single screw. Between the two turrets, there would be a combined total of 4 10-inch smoothbore shell guns. However, they had a significant problem. John Ericsson did not favor the twin turret design, and he did not favor the twin propeller design, and thus he would try to deter both of these. He was successful in persuading the Naval Department to drop one of the turrets in favor of a single turret mounting 2 20-inch smoothbore shell guns. Ericsson was less successful in dealing with the propellers, and the completed design would retain twin screws. Its projected displacement was 4,912 tons. It would have an overall length of 340 feet, an overall width of 50 feet, and a draft of 21 feet. The armor on the turret was 15 inches, on the hull 6 inches, and on the pilot house 12 inches. While on the subject of armor, let's take a closer look at the turret, since it was not a traditional Monitor-type turret for the United States Navy. It was composed of 2 cylinders. The inner cylinder was 4 layers of 1-inch iron plate. Then there was a 5-inch gap leading to the second cylinder that was composed of 6 layers of 1-inch iron plate. Within the 5-inch gap, there were a series of iron support beams that would wrap around the inner layer, giving extra protection to prevent the outer cylinder from caving in, and it was also a part of the supporting structure for the outer layer. This spaced armor concept was supposed to help with the concussive force within the gun turret. The propulsion system would consist of 6 Martin boilers, which, when filled with water, weighed approximately 700 tons, and these would provide steam to 2 vibrating lever engines driving the 2 propellers at approximately 1,000 horsepower. Though Puritan was designed to make a top speed of 16 knots, the 1,000 horsepower would theoretically give it 9 knots, and the Dictator, when completed and operating on the same propulsion system, would only manage 6 knots. As planned, Puritan would follow the Dictator several months later. Dictator was laid down in August of 1862, while Puritan would not be laid down until sometime in 1863. The month and day are not known. Puritan would be constructed at the Continental Iron Works located in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. As was standard with warships at the time period, many of the components were constructed in other locations, such as the turret, machinery, guns, and other vital components to make the ship function. Everything would go through a pre-assembly process at their manufacture plant, then they would be disassembled and shipped to Continental to be installed within the hull. The completed hull would be launched on the 2nd of July, 1864. From this point on, work would slow, and by 1865, progress was stopped and the ship was eventually cancelled, and there was a sole reason for this. There was a severe holdup in the production of the ship's 20-inch guns. The story of this weapon starts in 1861, when a man named Thomas Rodman, who was a part of the U.S. Naval Ordnance Department, designed a weapon of 20-inch bore caliber in order to mount on coastal defenses and ships. 2 such weapons would be ordered from Fort Pitt in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with the first barrel being completed in 1864 and the second barrel being completed in 1869. The barrel had a mass of 58.2 tons, while its carriage had a mass of 18 tons, giving it a combined total mass of 76.2 tons. Both of these guns were experimental, and there were 2 more guns that were ordered, and these 2 were meant for the Puritan. Unfortunately, it takes several years to produce weapons of this size, and thus, gun number 3 was not completed until after the American Civil War, and the 4th gun may have never been completed. The 3rd gun was sold off to Peru sometime in the 1870s, and its current disposition is unknown. All 4 of these weapons would fire a monstrous 1,080-pound solid round shot, being propelled by a 200-pound black powder charge. They had a maximum range of about 4.5 to 5 miles. It took 8 men to operate one gun, and they could get a shot off every 7 to 10 minutes. With the Civil War coming to a conclusion before the guns were completed, Puritan lost its purpose, and that is why it was cancelled. No decision had been made as to what to do with the completed hull. It would continue to sit and rot away until 1874, when the United States Navy told Congress that it was repairing the ship, but in reality it had sold it off for scrap. That is where the story of Puritan comes to a conclusion. It was quite an interesting design with some very powerful firepower for its time period, but it was held up merely by circumstances surrounding its armament. With that having been said, that is all I have to say for this topic today. So, if you have learned something new, why not leave a like and a comment down below? Have a wonderful day.